Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. And we've got another special fans forum for you tonight. As always, so much to talk about in the Villa universe, both on and off the pitch. And joining myself and Kev is another extra special guest, Justin from the Where is he? Where is he?
Looking for him.
No, we're joking. It's the man himself, Justin from UTV fan channel and Justin Talks Villa YouTube channel as well. How you doing, mate? Great to have you on.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for asking. Very kind of you fellas.
Great stuff. Well, we are going to get right into it. Before we do, as always, we ask you to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're on the march to 6,000 subscribers, so please help us get there by liking, subscribing. And as it's fans forum night, get your comments, get your questions in, anything you want in terms of Aston Villa on and off the pitch. And I've titled this one Europe, first of all. And in relation to Justin, Unai Emery's comments, or his first words in the interview after the fantastic victory against Bournemouth. And I guess he just wanted to highlight the point of the consistency of Aston Villa over this past 3 years and the achievement of qualifying for Europe over 3 years. But also, I think a little tinge of, we still want more. We still want to kind of go after it. So just summing up your thoughts really on that achievement of hitting European qualification for those 3 years and the sort of expectation of levels that Unai Emery's taken us to.
It's sensational. There's no other way of saying it. It's a sensational achievement. It doesn't happen very often. A fan of my age, approaching 50 years old, I think it's happened 2 or 3 times in the whole time I've ever watched the Villa. I think Martin O'Neill era probably was the last time. I think we did 3 seasons in a row. I think we finished 6th 3 times. I mean, to do it in the modern age, even if you'd got, say, 10, 20 years of Premier League behind you, massive backing, great managers, decades of building up a squad, that's hard enough now. And there's teams that have not dropped out of the Premier League for a very, very, very long time, nowhere near qualifying for Europe. Yet we, fell to one of our lowest points, and the owners picked us up from nowhere, really. And within what seems like now a blink of an eye, we are now competing where they said we would be. But did we dare to believe that every owner that comes into every football club I've ever seen comes in and says, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So it was great that they did, but to back it up and do it, it just doesn't happen very often. So I'm always very blessed for what they've achieved and what Unai has achieved.
Yeah, Kev, it is a fantastic achievement, and it's something, I guess, to take a little bit of stock at the same time as wanting to achieve more. That Villa are at that top table now almost. We've got top 6, top 7 this season, probably minimum of Europa League football, but also the opportunity now to go after Champions League football. And just you look at the sort of runs of consistent form that we've had with Unai, and as I alluded to Justin before, just the standards and the consistency that Unai Emery sets for the players is just fantastic. And it's only because of his relentless pursuit for that excellence. And as he says, there was almost like a moment of satisfaction when he said Europe, that you can see what it means to him to get that achievement for the club.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's for most Villa fans, it's unprecedented. Justin, we're not that far behind you. Me and Rich, we're both sort of like mid-40s, so,
I know.
I mean, me early 40s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're a bit older than me, aren't you, Rich? Yeah, 44 is definitely mid-40s, isn't it? Although I don't know if you're doing your David Brent one. I'm in my 30s. But anyway. But anyway, my point is that, I think probably similar-ish eras we can remember. You probably would remember a little bit of that. You probably would remember the disappointment of the back end of the European Cup winning team getting relegated. Maybe that might have been your sort of early memories of Villa, sort of, mid to late 80s. Mine was sort of late 80s, I'm sure, same as Rich. And what have we had since then? We've had the Graham Taylor era, where obviously we came back from the second division as it was to have a real crack in our second season in Division 1, nearly winning the league, fading as we did 2 years later, obviously under Big Ron, 2 or 3 years later under Big Ron, to Man United in the first year of the Premier League. Then obviously we had a spell where we were top at Christmas under John Gregory. We did pretty well under Brian Little, won a League Cup as we did under Ron. Then we had that Martin O'Neill era where we thought we were going to make it. And other than that, we've had, the odd cup final where we've performed badly. So for this to happen in the time scale it's happened, we're still looking at probably just over 2.5 years. I've said this before, and I will say it again. And I say this with any sense of, being a bit over the top and being a little bit away with the fairies. And when you clip with someone on TikTok, I'm sure I'll get some grief, Rich. I think he's the best manager in the world, period. I don't think any other manager, Klopp, Guardiola, Ancelotti, could have done what he's done with this group of players post Steven Gerrard, with where the club have been in recent times. It's unbelievable. And I saw a stat today. I'm pretty sure it was AVFC stat. I'm sure sometimes I'm crediting AVF stat for stuff that other people put out there, but because he's such an oracle for it, I don't mind giving it to him anyway. This is our most consecutive, most wins in a season now since, I think, 1976, 77. And that's only 50 years. And we've got so used to it as a fan base that we win most games. And I guess the final point I want to say on this is, look, we had huge hopes in that Man City game, right? Because we would have still had Champions League in our own hands. And then to follow up with the absolute disappointment of that Wembley performance against Crystal Palace. When you put that in isolation, you're not going to win every match as a football team. And it was such an amazing opportunity to get a trophy. That's why we were so disappointed about it, on the back of obviously losing to PSG, plucky losers. But when you put that in isolation with everything else, the stats for what we've done as a club are just sensational. We're only behind Liverpool this calendar year in points. I think we're right up there in terms of, since the turn of the year in the Premier League in terms of wins. And it's only because everyone else has done so well still that we're not actually cemented in the Champions League, because they've all got, probably 7 or 8 wins out of 10. And we've, got a bit more. We have to pinch ourselves as Villa fans. We really have to, because this is unprecedented. And we're lucky enough to get to go on, podcasts and, chat to the likes of obviously Justin and obviously all the rest of the great Villa podcast network and talk about Villa at a time where we're doing so well. Because I'm sure, guys, Justin would have predated us. You would have been through some bleak days on YouTube, Justin, talking about, Dr. Tony Gier, I'm sure, and all those things.
Yeah, just a few.
It's unbelievable. And the great thing about it is that here we are as a fan base. We're in May and we've still got something to fight for. And we had loads to fight for last month and we've still got something to fight for. So, yeah, carpe diem. Let's absolutely seize this moment now. Let's get to Friday night.
There's Kev saying.
That's my saying. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it was some Latin guy back in the day.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Julius
that is he, surely.
It was either Augustus Caesar, Julius Caesar, or me. Let's get this record against Spurs put to bed, and then it's obviously all systems go to Old Trafford. Right. See you later. I'll finish now. Bye.
Michael, we had loads of people saying good evening, so it's great to have everyone in the chat. But Michael has said, good evening, Rich, Kev, and Justin, and give us a hello, Justin.
Hello.
There you go, mate. There you go. But you did mention about the form, Kev, and we did a little illustration of this the other night when we were on. And I mean, like Kev said, Justin, like the form that we've had, if you take out the disappointment of that semi-final, but like the Premier League, you kind of like forget almost like some of the games and the Champions League games, the FA Cup games, kind of think the Premier League's kind of got in the way of some of those. But this form is crazy. Like 7 wins out of 8 games, 5 clean sheets, 4 goals conceded. The consistency, again, I keep saying it, variety of opposition, tough away games, the home performance against Newcastle, absolutely incredible. The difficult game against Nottingham Forest when they were absolutely flying. I mean, we've put ourselves in this position and it's been brilliant, hasn't it? This last sort of 6 or 7 weeks in terms of the Premier League form.
Yeah, it's sensational. I think had we have gone out of, say, Champions League and the FA Cup much earlier, and we'd only been playing in league, and we'd have put that run together, I think everybody would be saying, wow, look at Villa, look how good they are. But because we've had those little bit of interspersed losses, obviously the FA Cup semi-final was one, and the away leg at PSG, although not unexpected to go somewhere like that and get a result like that. People have sort of not really took much notice, but I think now, given where we've come from, I mean, I did a sort of prediction thing about just late February, I think, when I thought, okay, can we plot our way to the top 5? And I think I worked out it was like 66 points over the last 20 years would have got you 5th more often than not. So I thought, how do we get there? And we have already hit that with 2 games to go. So it's just an incredible run of form, what they've done. And don't forget, at this point last season, we were falling off a cliff form-wise. We had injuries all over the place. I think in the semi-final, second leg against Olympiacos, or the first leg, we had 1 senior player on the bench. And our form dropped, totally down the toilet in the last 3 games, especially the last game of the season. So what they've done this year to sort of address that, and January was the big factor for me, going out and making sure this squad the depth is there, ready to attack what hopefully would have been a really exciting end to the season, and it still is. And I think they've learnt from last season, and they've allowed for that little bit of injury / drop loss of form to come in. And we haven't really had that, which has been another added bonus. So to do what we've done is just ridiculous, to put ourselves in the position we are. I mean, I always think we're going to win every game and win the league and win the FA Cup, but I think,
me too.
We're nearly at the point where they're actually, living up to my expectations, which is winning every game. So
yeah. Well, you and Kev both. Stephen said, "Hi all to 2 of the most positive Villa fans, Kev and Justin. They will have us finishing 3rd." There you go.
That was what I predicted, and I still thought it was possible 2 weeks ago.
At the start of the season, you said 3rd.
Yeah, I said 3rd at the start of the season. Yeah,
I said 5th.
Yeah. I guess I didn't. I saw how well we dealt with Conference League last season, and I actually think, I know it's all coulda, shoulda, wouldas, but you look at the points we left on the table against Ipswich, for example. Forest away. Bournemouth at home. You're looking at probably 7 to 8 points. I know every team's got those moments, but I thought it was possible. But what I was going to say just on that was, I know you and I are probably 2 of the most positive ones out there, which is obviously our sunny demeanors. But I was never like that. It's Unai's done this to me. This squad of players have done it to me. I really believe, I'm like a kid at Christmas. I believe there's magic. I believe there's a unity in that team. There's a drive and a vision from the owners. Everything about it, the narrative, the way the fans are with the players, the way the players are with the fans, the way they are with the media, the way they talk, everything about it for me is up. And I look at it and I just think, I don't give 2 hoots about any of the other teams. None of them scare me. I think Liverpool are very lucky this season to do what they've done with the way things have run. I ain't scared of anybody next season. I think we can win the league next season if we get some good signings in, because someone's got to win it, and our form is unbelievable. If we're second to Liverpool across the calendar year, subject to us getting some players in, I think we can have a go at it. And the other thing I wanted to say just quickly was that run of recent results, other than Southampton, they're all top 10 teams in the Premier League.
Yeah. And that was something at the start of the season. A lot of pundits and stuff, and leveled at Villa. I didn't have the best of starts, and they haven't really played anyone good yet. Well, we've shown at the end of the season that we've put some great results against some of those big sides. Just quickly on the sort of where we are in the table, and we'll get the running on in a second. And we had a question asked before, but do you kind of think, where you've mentioned that about kind of the cup games interrupting the Premier League form, do you think we've sort of gone under the radar, Justin, and sort of, I guess the pundits have only really again started talking about Villa to be, I guess a few days ago before the Bournemouth game, it was like, oh, Bournemouth's such a tough game, but Villa could be dark horses for this Champions League. And then we beat them. And it's like now it's kind of seeing that Villa could be, the favourites in inverted commas to clinch it now. But it's kind of been like almost begrudgingly that they've sort of talked about Villa as being that Champions League contender. It was almost like we were just a little bit of pretenders. Do you think that's been the case, or do you think we've kind of gone under the radar? Do you think we kind of don't necessarily get the respect?
We don't get the respect 100%. At the start of the season, everyone had written us off before we'd kicked a ball. I think most of the predictions I saw all over social media, TikTok, even into the mainstream media, BBC, Sky, TalkSport, all those, we were anything from 7th to 12th, based purely on Champions League. The extra demand of, and what had happened the season before to Newcastle, which you can't go on because we'd had the extra season in Europe before we got into the Champions League, where they made the jump straight into the Champions League and weren't prepared for it. Not only were they not prepared for it, they didn't have a manager that had a clue how to navigate around a European campaign while still juggling a domestic campaign as well, where we had everything like that covered. And I think they went into it. And Monchi and Vidigani have to take a lot of respect and credit for that as well, because that sort of group of men, when they get their heads together, they work things through, within an inch of its life. So I think, no, we don't get the respect. We haven't had the respect recently. Every single league table I've seen over the last month that said the race for 5th is on, up until last week when we actually jumped above Forest, we weren't in any of them, and we're on the same points as them all. So I'm happy for the mainstream media to keep writing us off and thinking we're going to drop off a cliff, because I know we're not. This is a different Villa. It's a different era, different ownership, and we're not going away anytime soon. Barring an absolute catastrophe, which I don't see happening, we're going to be in and amongst it for the foreseeable future, as far as I'm concerned. Even when we're trying to sort of navigate around this FFP and PNS and the European, rulings, don't forget what we had to do last summer and the players we had to get to shift out. One of our best midfielders was shipped out, and we've navigated the season without him. At the start there was a few, oh God, what we're going to do without him. But you look at the rise of Yuri Tielemans, and the work we've done on the free transfer market over the last 3 years. I can't remember a club pulling off as many top quality free transfer signings as we have, that have all gone on to become integral parts of a Premier League team as we did. I just can't remember it. Yeah,
100%. It was funny. Just to finish up now, I'll go to some comments, but it is so funny that BBC and Sky Sports couldn't manage to put an extra line on their graphic to include the top 7, even though we're on the same points as Forest and Chelsea, whoever else it was.
But it just makes them look really small time and petty, though, doesn't it? That's
yeah. You could tell how small time I was, because I think I retweeted it and called them bumperclarts. So,
are you Aaron in the chat?
What's the most disrespectful word I can use? It's funny. The only way we seem to get any respect is overseas.
Yeah, that American one with
NBC.
Yeah.
Rebecca Lowe, Robbie Musto, Robbie Earl. You get it a little bit, obviously, from obviously Andy Gray and Richard Keys on the is it the Bein Sports whatever one, and you don't get it. I mean, you know what gets me as well? It's the derision that you get from the likes of a Jamie O'Hara or Robbie Savage or someone like that. Some
Sorry.
But you know what I'm saying. To be fair to Savage, he's been a bit better lately. But you know what I mean. You see them.
He's had to be there. That's because he's had to. Because
he's had no choice.
Sorry to Kevin. You get to a point when they can't ignore you any longer, and they have to come out and talk positively about. I remember when Wolves came up, and I hate Wolves. I live in a massive Wolves area, and I did my best to slag them off for years, and then all of a sudden they became excellent. And I couldn't say they were rubbish anymore. They were pushing for Europe, and I had to say, you know what? Wolves are a decent side, and that's what Villa have had to do. We've had to push our way into the conversation, and it's a bit embarrassing for the mainstream, because you'd think they'd be wanting to shout from the rooftops with what we've achieved and the manager we've got, the players we've got. So it is just embarrassing. Sorry, Kev, for cutting over.
It's all right. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a great story as well, isn't it? Everybody likes an underdog story usually. and we, we're told that this Big Six narrative isn't real, isn't true. But I mean, what was the graphic the other day that Sky Sports put out about we're going to have this amount of English teams in the Champions League? And there was
it was TNT, wasn't it? It was
TNT.
No
Villa.
Forest weren't on there. Forest and Villa. Forest were in the top 5 at the time it happened, right? And Villa were like obviously right amongst it. And you had Spurs and Man United and Chelsea, and I just thought,
And only one of Spurs and Man United can do it as well.
Yeah,
that's
ridiculous.
That's the crazy thing. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's just disrespect. But the funny thing is about it is even though we live in this era now where obviously every club's got loads of analysts and scouts and everybody knows everything about what's going on in the clubs, I still believe, because we're going under the radar, that no one knows how good Yuri Tielemans is, and no one knows how good Morgan Rogers is. And actually, the media might not know about it, but I think everybody else does, don't they?
Yeah. Adam said we don't get the respect because we're not consistent for an entire season. We've got to do it for 5 years plus before pundits change their mind about us. This is only the beginning.
We've been pretty consistent, to be fair, this season. I think we don't finish where we are without being consistent.
Precisely. And look, I get the point about the pundits, because they are going to have to actually do some research at some point and look at Villa players. But yeah, I think we've shown that we're up there now. Definitely. To obviously seal that Champions League spot, we've got a couple of big games to come, and we've talked before we came onto the show around, the situation of these two games, the teams that they are potentially being bogey teams. If we have a look at the running, Villa have Spurs at home, obviously Man United away, Newcastle, Arsenal away, Everton home, Man City, Bournemouth home, Fulham away. I've seen a few people in the chat. Ryan's in the chat as well, talking about, whether Man City might suffer a little bit, is particularly if they lose the FA Cup final or even win that FA Cup final. Do they take their eye off the ball a little bit? I don't know. And then Forest, are they like totally on their knees now? West Ham away, Chelsea at home. So it's shaping up to be a key. Obviously, it's a key time of the season, Kev. And we had a question from Shane saying, do you ever remember 2 final games being so pivotal to the following season?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. There was the away leg in the Championship playoffs, and then there was the home leg against Baggies, and then there was the game against Derby. But other than that, Premier League era, no, not at all. Because
you could argue was it Arsenal
the last 2 games before
Arsenal
we got
at home and West Ham away?
Yeah.
You could argue that.
Yeah, to be fair, that's actually a very, very good point. And you could probably argue that last season, obviously, the Champions League run, and obviously we were, as Justin alluded to, falling off a cliff with our squad, with our injuries, with our form. But we were lucky that we were up against Spurs, because anybody else, we probably would have been pipped. No, I actually would say, other than maybe staying in the league, in that crazy 8 points in 4 games, which again, talk about unprecedented things that teams have done in recent years. No one's done that to stay up from relegation. But anyway, let's talk about Champions League instead. For us to do it 2 seasons in a row, what that would do for the club in terms of the future, in terms of the revenues, in terms of the profile of the players, in terms of the profile of the club, it would be amazing. I still think Europa League, and you're in a good position, and it's obviously a trophy I think we'd have a real good chance of having a crack at, absolutely. But I think that we were, 5 more minutes away from having a good crack at the Champions League, this season, in our first season in it. So I think the sky's the limit for us. And I just think what it would do for the club, getting in Europe again, as Unai said, I mean, it's everything, isn't it, for us as a club? Of all the Villa fans of whatever age you're at, if you're of a certain age of sort of probably 30 plus, you do remember us having some decent European ties. But this season's been unbelievable, hasn't it? Juve, Bayern, PSG, Celtic, it's been fantastic. And who's to say next season, are we gonna get in it? I think we will. And then what? The Bernabeu,
you think you learn more from that experience as well? You think the valuable experience that all of these players will have had with, European competition over the last 2 years, how to win a 2-legged tie, how to conduct yourself against a side like Paris Saint-Germain. It's all so valuable in terms of learning experiences. So yeah, I think I'm confident, and I think there's a lot of steel, there's a lot of determination in the players to make sure that they win these next 2 games, to give ourselves the best chance of doing it. And I think with the variables that are in play, I think there's at least one of them that I do think will work in our favour.
I was going to say, do you know what it is as well, Rich? It's a big thing, isn't it? In life, it's belief. It's belief. I saw something the other day. There's a guy I follow on X called George Mack. I don't know if anyone knows him, but he's really switched on, intelligent guy. He's a big mate of Chris Williamson. He does the Modern Wisdom podcast, and he said the other day, it's a great tweet he put out saying the 4 most powerful things in the world are, or most powerful mind altering substances are cocaine, meth, some other drug, and momentum. And it's like, absolutely. And we've got momentum. And we've got belief, and they are powerful. I
just hope the players aren't on the other 3 things.
Oh, I don't think unlike Keir Starmer and Macron, according to what I've said on Twitter today.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. I don't think they've got bigger fish to fry than me making it claims like that. You've only got to look at that amazing Premier League win that Leicester got. And again, so many people don't realise they won 7 of the previous 9 games the season before. They went into that season flying. We've beaten 7 out of the last 8 games. And the game we lost was a last-minute defeat at the 4 times consecutive champions away from home. So, it's and I think this is driving us now. We've got the belief. So if whatever happens this season, right, going into next season as well, this team have seen us. I mean, no one of all the other English teams got close to doing what we did to PSG. That's probably the toughest game they've had this season, and look at what we've done in terms of the wins we've had in recent years, beating Man City back-to-back, beating Newcastle like we've beaten them a couple of times heavily. It's only really Spurs at home and Man United that we haven't really done too much damage to, and we've got a chance to do that this season. But what we've done as a club in recent years and what this manager has done is instilled in this team something that Villa fans have known we've not had for a long time. It's steel, it's solidity, it's belief, it's confidence. Is that even when the chips are down, we believe we can do it. Sure, we've had bad moments. We've had bad, Olympiacos, Palace in the cup, but generally, when the chips are down, this team can be counted, and that's an amazing situation to be in as a football fan.
Yeah. Kev says if we're gonna bottle it, Bournemouth was the game. I'm convinced we'll win our last 2. It's whether Forest can do us a favour. Rod does say, real talk, I would be happy enough with the Conference League. It really is an amazing achievement, but I'm greedy for Champions League again. It was so great. James said we need 3 points versus the Spuds on Friday before thinking of United. Yes, definitely.
I was just going to... Oh, sorry, you go. No, you read Rachel's comment first, and I'll go.
Depends on what Man United do with the Europa League final. If they win, they could be drunk or want to continue that good spirit. If they lose, it's probably a write-off, but they could surprise us. Yeah, I agree. On that one.
I agree too. I was just going to say to you guys, to Justin and Rich, that Newcastle-Chelsea game, which way did you want it to go? Because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to draw, a win for one and win for the other. I wasn't sure based on the games afterwards, but how are you feeling about that now? Are you happy with the outcome?
I think it was a win-win-win situation. Somebody was dropping points, 2 teams that were above us. All we can hope for is win our games and hope teams above us drop points. So it was a guaranteed somebody was dropping points above us. And you can be picky and think this might have been the better result, but I actually think that probably wasn't far off being the best result for us, because it means that Chelsea now got a chase. They've also had their striker sent off. They haven't got another one, despite spending £7 trillion on 400 players. And they've got to go to Forest on the last game of the season. So I actually think Forest could, if they could get a point against West Ham in the next game, that keeps them in the hunt and it keeps them hungry for the last game at home at City Ground, meaning they've got to go all out in the season they've had and the recent form they've had. They'd probably want to go out with a bit of a bang, wouldn't they? So, look, whatever happens, I think we've won this season anyway. We all would love to have another Champions League campaign, but this isn't the last season we're ever going to play football. We're in it for the long run. We're going to be, I would think, qualifying again for it at some point over the next 10 years, maybe 2, 3, 4 times, hopefully. But if we do get in the Europa League, then I think we can go and win that one. So, it's a win situation for me. I think we'd have 3 cups next season. We could probably go and try and win. So whatever happens. But for the record, I think we're getting 5th anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's also not inconceivable that Newcastle could lose to Arsenal, and then obviously you know, it goes.
Well, Arsenal could finish fourth in the 2-horse title race, couldn't they?
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Justin. I don't think particularly there was any result that wasn't, you know, after we beat Bournemouth and we got our result out of the way, I didn't really mind about the result against Chelsea and Newcastle, because if Chelsea had won, it would put the pressure on Newcastle to go and have to get a result against Arsenal. And then Everton at home for them isn't a gimme, you know. I think Everton and Newcastle have a bit of history. So they'll be wanting to win.
Probably the perfect result, wouldn't it? Because both teams would have dropped points. But as I say, for me, it's us and Chelsea for fifth now. So I think that's the one we've got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely.
Most likely.
And also, I totally understand, you know, the hypocrisy and the favoritism with the Premier League, with moving Tottenham's game. But I think in terms of the situation that we're in, us playing first 45 minutes before Chelsea kick off as well, if we can get off to a fast start and be 2 or 3-0 up at half time, that puts a lot of pressure on Chelsea against Man United at home. And I know Man United will make changes and all that sort of stuff, but it's all psychological at this stage. You saw Nottingham Forest on Sunday afternoon when they went 2-1 up. The last 20 minutes, they couldn't run. They felt the pressure. So we play first. We put a hell of a lot of pressure on all of these teams if we can make sure we get off to a good start and get a good result, because a lot of these situations are played in the mind, and that's what can really affect players. You know, someone gets sent off. We've seen it. Someone gives away a penalty. A chances are missed. So the supporters get really tense. There's so much that can happen, and us playing first under the lights, as you say, Kev, at Villa Park, with the fans already a little bit annoyed about the situation. The atmosphere will be absolutely crazy on Friday.
Yeah, you got Villa fans saying to each other, "I didn't want to be here, but now I am."
Exactly.
Let's go.
Exactly.
I think it suited us though, didn't it? Because it was obviously a bit of a joke, the fact they moved it.
Yeah.
But we were never going to come out and go, "You've done us a favour there, Premier League." Thanks.
No. But it's a bit of a siege mentality now, isn't it?
Exactly that. Exactly. And you know what, as well, you talk about like the belief and like, you know, that Forest game, by the way, I don't think I've cheered a Villa goal this season as much as I cheered that one and I say goal for Leicester. My kids were like, "What's going on?" I'm like, Forest have let one in. The one thing I think that, I mean, I've been saying it for ages, and I know, Justin, you put a tweet out the other day as well saying, like, you know, you got a bit of derision for saying that you thought Villa would finish ahead of Forest. I said exactly the same, didn't I, Rich, about 3 or 4 months ago?
Yeah, you did. You said it ages ago.
I said I just got a feeling. I got a feeling they're gonna fade and we're gonna keep it going. And obviously, the game we beat them was big, but I don't think Chelsea. I think Chelsea have got a lot of players in that team that haven't had the level of success that previous Chelsea teams have had. And whereas Newcastle have qualified for the Champions League a couple of years ago, they've won the Carabao Cup this season. I think it'll be, you know, Villa and Newcastle are the ones that are probably more big time mentality now. And that's why I think Forest and Chelsea will miss out. But you can clip this if I'm wrong anyway.
A bit of a fun question for you, Justin. Bear in the Garden says, do you find it more stressful chasing the Champions League or surviving a relegation battle?
It's for me, it's not stressful chasing the Champions League. It's a dream, isn't it? You know, getting relegated, that's going. I remember at the time thinking, is it the end of the world we're going down? Because we'd had probably 10 years of absolute dross, watching us lose most weeks. And like a lot of teams do who tend to swirl around the plug hole of the Premier League for a long time, they almost feel like it's, you know, been put out of the misery. But having experienced it now, I wouldn't want to be there again. So for me, where we are is just a joy. It's not a dredge at all to be where we are now. I think it's a massive, because like I said, you know, what's the booby prize? Europa League football.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we'd have took that 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, some of the teams in that are great. Like there's some great away games there.
Yeah, Man United, Spurs, quality teams. I mean, can we just have a moment to talk about this? Right, these are the two teams that are probably going to finish the 2 positions above relegation. How it's got to that point? I know the rules are the rules, and you get in the Champions League, but there should just be some sense of like, listen, we've had a chat with all the clubs around Europe, and because you're such an embarrassment, we're going to give an extra spot to the league position. I mean,
nobody wants you.
No, I mean, Spurs are going to finish 4th bottom. Wow, unbelievable
Yeah.
And Man United are going to finish fifth bottom, because obviously with West Ham winning the other day, I mean, I can't believe what I'm seeing, really. It's crazy.
It's mad. Villain Man Cloudy says, we just need to give 100% and play well in these last 2 games, and we'll put ourselves in the best position to win both games. Come on, Villa, get the job done. 3 seasons in Europe is massive for us. Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, make sure you hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. We've got well over 200, almost 250 in the chat on X and on YouTube. So please do like and subscribe, and keep your comments coming, and I'll try and get through as many as I can and try and read through as many as I can, as always. And yeah, keep your questions in. We'll save a few of them for towards the end of the show. I just needed, the next one I wanted to discuss was our record breaker, and that is Mr. Oliver George Arthur Watkins, 75 Premier League goals. I do kind of want someone to hit that 100 for Aston Villa. I feel like we're a big enough club to have someone at 100, but nevertheless, brilliant achievement for Ollie Watkins, Justin. And I mean, I'm a big Watkins fan. I know he kind of divides opinion across numerous supporters. And I mean, I'll ask your opinion on his record in a second, and you can talk about Watkins. But I was speaking to my dad yesterday about it, and he was like, Watkins, brilliant achievement, fantastic player. And he was like, he doesn't understand, it's the same as me, like, he doesn't understand sometimes the criticism. Like, he couldn't understand criticizing missing a chance here or there. And he was talking to me, and I was like, I remember Dean Saunders used to get people calling him out, saying he was terrible. Dwight York even used to get it every now and again, how bad he was. And my dad was like, Peter With used to get it. Like, people used to call Peter With a donkey back in the day. Is it just a thing that we do with strikers, that we don't necessarily appreciate them until they at some point move on from the club? Will Ollie Watkins not get that sort of appreciation until he, whether he does move on or retires or whatever? Do you think that that's the case, that we just always have this sort of bar for strikers that they have to score every single chance that they get?
I think it just comes with the job, doesn't it? If every striker in the country and in the world that's ever played football, you miss a chance and that's it. It's the end of the world. But I think you've only got to look at his record, and it probably will only be when he's left that he's truly appreciated at Villa. But and modern day footballers, especially attacking players now, get it's goals and assists, isn't it? It's key contributions to the game. That was never a thing when I was younger. It was how many goals have you scored. But now it's goals and assists, and his is just ridiculous. Sorry, the dog's barking there. But yeah, 16 goals, 11 goals, 16, 27, 17 this season. You'd go a long way. And what did we spend on him? Wasn't that much really comparatively these days?
28. I think it was 28. I think it was. I think it was 38. Yeah,
28. I think that rings a bell. Comparatively, what you'd have to pay for a striker now. If you'd have said we need to sign a striker that's going to score 90 odd goals in 5 seasons next, how much would you pay for that?
Yeah,
I do sometimes get the criticism of him. I don't understand it, and I don't do it. But I think people do get frustrated when he misses chances. But I don't know. As I say, I think he'll only be truly appreciated when he goes. And there has been rumblings about him being a bit upset about not playing in the bigger games this season, and we'll have to see what happens in the summer. And I hope that's not what ends his career at Villa. I hope he stays and gets 100, 120, 130 goals for the club. So we'll just have to see what happens and how it banks out. But for me, he's one of the best strikers I've ever seen at Villa. So he's in the top 5 or 6 that I've seen, simply because of his longevity and what he's achieved at Villa since he come here. And he's one of the few players, along with like Mings and McGinn, who's been on that journey with us from the Championship and has upped his level every time we've upped our level. So you've got to be appreciative of what he's done, really.
Yeah. Michael is backing in for a hat trick on Friday.
Love it.
And Michael Dymek said, I've always 100% backed Watkins. James is always a Watkins #1 fan as well. So we need Ollie to get to 100 goals in the Premier League. Stephen says, get Sam on. And yeah, we'll get Sam on. Adam said, did Ollie say he wanted 100 goals with Villa or just 100 Premier League goals?
100 goals, he did
I
say.
think it was 100 goals. Yeah. Villa man Cloudy, we just want him to score of the chances he gets. Let's have it. I understand that. I totally get that. And like I've always said, that
there isn't a striker on the planet that scores every single
Yeah.
chance they get. It's nobody's mentioning Haaland. He's compared to what he was doing the first season. His ratio of scoring goals isn't nowhere near what it was the first season he was in England. So, if you've got a striker scoring every single chance, it's Messi and Ronaldo, and they don't come along very often, do they?
The difficulty with it as well is this, right? Is that you don't, as a football fan, look at any kind of situation with a player across a season in one go. You look at it moment by moment, and actually across a season, we'd go, well, you know what? He did miss that chance there, but oh God, that goal he scored against Southampton, or wasn't he fantastic the other day when he got that winner in a 1-0 win? We don't do it. We see the moment, and then if it's a moment when Villa are in bad form, start of the season, we wanted to get off to a good start. Our only home defeat this season was a game we should have won because he missed 2 absolutely glorious chances. That in another game he gets at least one of those, and you probably don't end up losing the game. So, it's we haven't got the ability to have that level of perspective across a season. But when you reflect on it, I mean, I think I saw a stat the other day saying that it might only be Salah in the last 2 seasons has got as many goals and assists as Watkins has got.
Yeah, he's got 30 again this season, hasn't he? Goal contributions, as we like to.
Yeah. So wouldn't it be amazing if actually he did this season, despite seemingly having an iffy season, if he was to do what Michael's predicted and get a hat-trick and then get one at Old Trafford and get himself 20 goals in a season for the first time? I bet that's a target that he's got. So, with Rashford obviously
just get 2 in each.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Howard said, I know Watkins divides opinion, but he really shouldn't. The work rate and assists cannot be replaced for next season. We need to look past the stats. Unai needs to work on another forward alongside him. And Stephen said he normally scores the last few games of the season as well. It's interesting as well because you look at the goal compilation of his all 75, and I know Sam's talked about this, has been kind of a purple patch player, and what he's done better is those purple patches have lasted longer. But the other point is that his goals and his goal scoring runs coincide with, like you said before, Kev, about the momentum that Villa get when they go on these winning runs. And like, it's no coincidence, obviously, he's going to score goals. Villa are going to win more games, but he's not getting consolation goals. He's getting winning goals for the team, and 1-0 wins, the key goal in a 2-1 win or something like that, or the goal that sets us off to win the game. And that's the sort of where I guess he's key to that. Like the compilation was like, he was on that 10 or however many consecutive goal scoring run when we clinched the Conference League. And then last season when he didn't score for a few games at the start of the season, then he went on another massive run of goals, and then towards the back end of the season he went on a bit of a run where he culminated in the goal against Arsenal. And now at this point in this season, we've won 7 out of 8, and he's contributed, I think, 5 or 6 goals. It's these times where he comes up at the clutch moments, and that's kind of what he's like.
Absolutely. Apologies, I'm quite wobbly at the moment, but I'm trying to move an ice pack on my injuries. So I hope Watkins isn't doing what I'm doing right now, because he's going to struggle to get the 20 goals. So yeah, I keep moving my face really far. I'm trying to get some peas on my ankle, basically. I remember when me and you were at that Goodison match when we won 2-0 when Deer scored as well, and I think that might have been that run when he scored in 5 away games in a row as well. And like he's done loads of stuff like that, hasn't he? So, look, I'm a big Watkins fan. I get frustrated like anybody else does when he misses the chances, absolutely. But you got to look at this season. He's had to fight off the challenge of Duran at the start of the season. He's had to fight off the challenge of Rashford. Back into the season, he's going to be disappointed. He's not played a bit more in some of those bigger games, as we discussed. But you know what? Like, he's coming good, isn't it, at the right time now? And yeah, I mean, I love that goal the other day. The pass from Rodgers, brilliant, but the deftness of the finish. If you look at the derision that he gets for missing easy chances, and he does miss easy chances, but God, Haaland does, Raul used to, Batistuta used to. Keep going. Name any good striker. The goal against Southampton, wasn't it, when the ball by Tielemans and he got his toe on it over the keeper, and then the goal against Bournemouth the other day. 2 very different finishes, but 2 incredibly technical finishes. And he doesn't get the credit he deserves sometimes. Sometimes he does miss the easier chances, but sometimes he scores the more difficult ones. And we are so lucky to have him when you consider what every other club in the league would do with a player, other than maybe Newcastle, or Man City. I'm convinced if Arsenal had Watkins, they'd be still probably in the title race.
We're talking like, we should sign Liam Delap, we should do this, we should do that. I mean, yeah, fair enough. He's got 12 goals in a team that's been relegated, but we've got a player who's scored 16 Premier League goals. Like, why are we trading someone who's got? I know you're trading on potential. I get that argument, but why are we trading in someone who's kind of at the peak of their career for someone who's had, sort of, or while we talk about trading someone who's had 3/4 of a good season than someone who's had 5 years consistently hitting double figures of goals? That doesn't make sense to me. That Arsenal, Chelsea, and loads of other top clubs want. It doesn't compute with me. I don't get it.
The other thing is this: like, no Villa fan is watching every single game that Liam Delap plays.
Yeah.
Because if we were, we'd be going, he miscontrolled that one, didn't he? God, his link-up play wasn't very good today. All you see is the highlights of when he does score, and you go, oh my God, Delap scored again. Like other fans of the teams do about probably Watkins. Watkins scored again, didn't he? They don't see the frustration that we get. So we are very, very lucky. He's obviously someone that's done brilliant things for us. And amazing he's got the record. I did see quite a funny tweet today. Someone said, let's not forget Gabby Agabonlahor has only 1 goal off Villa's top Premier League goal scorer now.
You never know, he could make a comeback. Yeah.
No, I mean, isn't it good that, I'm sure we've all got an affection for Gabby. I think he's great in the media. Got to give him credit for how he's reinvented himself. But for a club of Villa's ilk to only have a record that is that big, I think I'm glad that it's been beaten now and it's good. And I think Gabby was pleased himself. So,
yeah,
and what a great video of all the old strikers sort of talking about it, and sending well wishes. So, but yeah, let's push it on now. Let's get that to hopefully at least beyond 80 this season. And then, if he goes, that'd be sad. But God, if he could push on to beyond 100, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Steve V said Watkins is class. We need more goals throughout the rest of the team. Maybe take the pressure off. Duncan said Watkins, good stats, poor, big chance XG, but he's that type of player. Mr. Green said, why does Watkins play better when he doesn't have competition? Do you put your finger on that, Justin? Do you think that's the case as well?
Same with Danny Ings, wasn't it, as well?
No, not really. I think he's just a confidence player, isn't he? I think he's enjoyed being the main man. I think he's enjoyed the times when he hasn't had that competition, but I don't think that's particularly fed into his runs of good form. I think it's just, he's a striker that feeds off scoring goals and having that running the team. And I think he's been used to being the main man at Villa for quite a while now, but I think we are entering and have done this season a different era of Villa. And I think he's got to appreciate that he's going to get competition. He's going to have competition, especially as he gets older. We're going to have to bring in another forward, whether it's this season or next, if he does hang around for the next 2 or 3 years. But the issue in his head is he's approaching 30 now. Is he 30 now? I think he's not far off, is he?
Yeah.
So, he's thinking, at some point I am going to drop off. So do I make a move now and one more big move to another big club like Villa and try something else a bit different? We've seen the likes of Trent going from Liverpool to Real Madrid by the sound of it. So I don't really have any problems with players that want to try other things. It's their life, it's their career. Football it's love for us, but it's a career for them. And I think they're totally within their rights to decide what they want to do when they want to do it. I hope his future lies with Villa, but there's all these different variables for a footballer, that we don't have to take into account, isn't it? The family, your age, where do you want to play, your happiness, and on the pitch, where's that next player coming, that's going to be chasing him down to get that starting berth. So lots of conversations to have when the season ends, I think, with the management.
And isn't it an amazing situation to be in, that we can simultaneously really love the players that we've got? Let's talk about the names, a Watkins, a Martinez, a Tielemans, a Rodgers. And yet simultaneously, if any of them left, I would back the club. I'd believe we'd replace him with someone really good. They'd see the opportunity to maximise the transfer fee. I mean, Watkins, I think he'll be 30 in December. His birthday's December. So, is there many more opportunities to get a fee for someone like him? Probably not. If he stays, brilliant. We're really happy. And at the same time, if he goes for, I don't know, whatever fee it is, and they bring in a Vlahovic or whoever it might be, then it's just good news all around with Villa now. What happens with the transfers? If Martinez goes as well, I feel the same about it. I think they'd replace him with someone younger, of a high caliber, and you get a good fee for him.
What I would say is, I think we're in an era now where the Villa make the decision, the players don't make the decision. I think if a player leaves, it's because the club are happy for them to leave. I don't think we'll ever see a player leave that the club were desperate to keep hold of. I just don't. I don't see that happening. If they'd have been desperate to keep hold of Duran, they'd have kept Duran. They wasn't. They were happy for him to go from who knows what reason, but the money was put on the table. The club were happy to sell him, and they moved him on. The same with Luiz last summer. The club was put on the table. The money was put on the table. The club decided it was the right move for them. If they hadn't, he wouldn't have left. I still do believe that we hold when you are working at that top end of the table in the Champions League positions, you will then become a very difficult club to leave. So you then have to make that work for you as a club. So you go and recruit the best players because they want to play in that competition. And you have to make that work for your players as well. They want to play. That's why we've more or less kept a very happy squad all season, because we've been going on three fronts. You get knocked out of every cup competition early and you struggle then because you've got 22 very, very good footballers all wanting to play not that many games. So it's such a balancing act when you are working at the top end of football like we are now.
Who'd have thought as well that in recent years that we would have coped with Grealish leaving, Douglas Luiz, who I felt was our best player, for a lot of last season. Douglas Luiz leaving, the form striker in Europe, John Duran, everyone wanted him leaving. Who'd have thought we would have dealt with
Moussa
Diaby with the goals and assists he got last season, dealt with that really as well as we've dealt with it. It just goes to show you've got all the evidence there, and then you look at some of the signings, Tielemans, the impact he's had. And I will probably come on to him in a minute in terms of some of the interest in him. But, free transfer, Morgan Rogers for, less than 15 million quid, like some of the players that we've brought into this team, it's just unbelievable in terms of the money that we haven't paid for them really in terms of, the wider market. And, you look at Sancho, you look at Anthony, some of these fees in recent years and some of the money we've spent on some of our players. I just trust the club. I trust what they're doing.
Yeah,
I trust the transfers.
Absolutely. We've got saleable assets now at every level of the club, whether they be the younger players, the under 18s, the under 19s, whether they be players that we've sent out on loan. I mean, I've seen Peter Ridsdale at Preston, the CEO, saying that Villa want a big transfer fee for Kane Kester-Hayden, and he's swept the boards at the awards at Preston. So, you're talking about a decent fee there. You're talking these young players that we've got from abroad, the likes of Nedeljkovic and Baranechea, if they can either come and integrate back in the first team, or we can sell them for more profit, or we sell one of the, some of the fringe players, talking Buendia for 17 million, that type of fee. And then beyond that, the big name players that I guess everyone wants, but like we've said, because we've signed them on reasonable transfer fees or even free transfers, the profit that you make from that is ridiculous. It's crazy. So yeah, it's a good position to be in, as you say, and I think Villa hold a lot of the cards in that situation. Just on that though, I mean, just to sort of round off, and then we'll get into a couple of questions before we finish up for the evening. It has been talked about Villa need a sale before the June the 30th deadline. I know they're gonna. I was watching the lad on TikTok who talks about kind of the marketing that Villa are doing. He was talking about the kit. The kit's going to contribute a lot to the kit release. Is going to contribute a lot to PSR, helping us on that regard, because we'll sell it. We'll sell a number of kits before the June the 30th deadline. But that being said, we might have to let a player go. That's when one of your top assets usually is attracting interest, and Yuri Tielemans just in the latest one that's been sort of linked with a move to Saudi. I think I saw Dan Bardell doing a show with Jacob saying that is Saudi league a bit of a problem for Villa. Are they coming in with these big bids for players for that kind of do well at Aston Villa to try and pick them off. I mean, how do you feel about this situation with maybe Yuri attracting interest?
I think the Saudi League's a bonus for a lot of English clubs now, because they're prepared to spend big money on marquee signings, aren't they? And when you want to get rid of a player, they're happy to spend the cash, aren't they, on them? So I don't think it's all bad. I don't see us selling Yuri Tielemans as in this summer. He's probably on the pecking order of 22 players in the squad. He's 22 for me at the moment. He's the last player I want to be seeing leave.
Yeah,
I think there's players that will be looked at as very, very saleable assets coming towards the twilight of their careers that could get big money to a place like Saudi. And the obvious one for me is Emi Martinez. And I, as I say, I don't want to let anybody go, but I've been around the block enough times to know that no one player is bigger than any football club. And if you have to make a deal to forward us for next season, like we did last year, so much negativity around the players we lost at the time last year, but look where we're sitting right now. Kevin made the point, we lost Jack Grealish. That was when I think my mindset of losing players totally changed.
Yeah,
you have to sometimes sacrifice to get stronger, and I love Emi. I think he's probably the best goalkeeper I've ever seen at Aston Villa, but if we are all brutally honest, his form has been a bit patchy this season. At times, he's made some absolutely ridiculous saves. The Forest save, I was at the ground that night. I still don't know how he saved that. And he's got that in him, but maybe he's becoming a keeper that makes amazing saves rather than keeping amazing amounts of clean sheets. So I think naturally, when you've got a two-time world goalkeeper of the year on your books, and you've got a country like Saudi, you are prepared to splash money on big names. There's no bigger goalkeeper in the world, name-wise, than Emi Martinez. So could we exploit them? Could we say, well, if you want him, you pay 70 million for him, then you get whoever gets him gets the world's greatest goalkeeper currently. I think it's a win-win for everyone if the club decide that's the way they want to go. And this is what I'll always caveat anything with. I will back anything the club decide to do on the transfer front and the player front. You have to do that. It's probably the first time in my life that I don't particularly worry when we sell players.
No.
They're thinking 2-3 transfer windows ahead. They're looking at where we are financially in 2-3 years' time. They know where we need to be to make these decisions. And I think they're holding off on a few things to wait to see where we are going to be next season, because they're going to know roughly what kind of income is coming from this season. And we'll know where we've got to be for next season. I think the kit thing is a very clever, prudent, tactical move. It's about time we released a kit before the start of next season.
I know, man. Rather than doing it a week before the start of next season.
So, again, it just points towards how very well we are run off the pitch and on the pitch. Nobody wants to say the words of hatred that Chris Heck has done a pretty good job overall. Yes, he's made mistakes, but you look at where we were financially when he come in, and I know that the main thing that's thrown at him currently is, well, it's only because of what Unai Emery's done on the pitch. That's a fair point, but it's not only because of that what we're doing off the pitch.
You've got to capitalise.
A pretty decent job off the pitch, 100%. As I say, has he got everything right? Absolutely not. But we are a movable object, moving in the right direction in every aspect of where we are. I went down there today, and the warehouse is coming on unbelievable, and that area, I wish I could jump forward 5 years to see what that looks like in that area. When the north stand's done, the warehouse is done. It's all lovely paving and lovely planters and trees, and it's first home game of the season, and there's 10,000 Villa fans all milling around there, eating, drinking. It's going to be sensational, and that's the legacy of Chris Heck.
Yeah. Absolutely bang on it. But it's funny, isn't it? Because we talk about Watkins being good and bad, Martinez, being good and bad. By the way, the save against Bournemouth was unbelievable as well. Yeah. Chris Heck, the same. Not everything is going to be perfect. I mean, Unai made mistakes, didn't he, in the Palace
100%,
game? Yeah. Happens to everybody, but largely the job Chris Heck has done. Yeah, it's been a bit controversial at times, and there's been a bit of stuff in the media about stuff he's done, but the revenues have massively increased. Globally, commercially, we are a much bigger proposition. We've got the Adidas deal. and obviously that's going to be something which as we've discussed already, is going to make a big impact on our books for this season now, because we're going to release the kit actually like the other big teams do, and that's what we are now. We're a big team. We're acting like a big team, and because we are a big team. Yeah, we are a big team.
Well, you touched on Chris Heck, and just a quick word on the new Chris Heck, Francesco Calvo, who's, I think, can count Roma, Juventus, Barcelona on his CV. I think he's worked with Monchi before, so again that link up with Monchi, Vidigani, and Emery, I think, obviously, hopefully exciting things. Hopefully he continues to build on what's happened already with the club.
I think it's the job nobody wants, to be honest, because whatever he does, he's going to be he's going to be hammered for it. And I think this feeds into the issue of trying to please, let's say, 40,000 people that come every match day, probably 100,000 Villa fans that live and breathe it, probably in this country, maybe more than that, and the millions of fans that follow us all over the world that have a passing interest in us. You can't please that amount of people. You just can't. It's impossible. No. All you can try and do is try and please the majority of them, and it's very difficult to do, because what he'll be asked to come in and do is not let the momentum go. We were talking about momentum earlier, and this momentum off the pitch has to continue. Whether you like it or not, football nowadays is money, 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 money. And if you don't create wealth, you're going to go backwards on the pitch, and none of us want to see that happen. So he's got to come in now, and he's got to try and, if anything, increase the revenue streams, increase where we are, increase this, increase that. I don't know whether there's a reason the season ticket prices haven't been dropped yet. I know that the corporate ones are all out now, but ours haven't come out yet. So I presume, and I have absolutely no idea on this, that they're waiting, hopefully, to announce Champions League football, and then maybe whatever increase is coming, which I presume there will be one, it'll be easier to stomach because you're getting Champions League football again, and they won't get beaten with we're not even got Champions League football this year. So I feel a bit sorry for him before he starts, because I think he's going to come up against a lot of negativity, whatever decisions he makes. I hope he can. I think they've announced today this restructuring of the fan consultation group. That's an interesting thing that came out of the club today. So whoever gets on that, let's hope they've got a good connection, 10 people, whatever it is, with 4 or 5 representatives from the club. All I want to see in that is open, honest dialogue. But that's got to be both ways. You can't have a club shutting down fan bases and telling them what they're doing. You've got to have it. But you've also, as a fan base, whoever those 10 people are, I urge them to be respectful back, because you can't do anything unless you build a rapport and you build a working relationship with them. You're not going to get wins all the time. You've got to pick your battles. And if you haven't got that respect both ways, you can't sit in a room together and have an open debate on all these critical subjects that the fans care so passionately about going forward. So whoever gets that job, I hope they can all sit around the table and be amicable and all be passionate and all want the best for the club. That's all I ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well said. Just a quick news. The Championship playoff final has been decided. So it will be Sheffield United against Sunderland next Saturday. I believe Sunderland have just scored a last-minute extra time goal to win 3-2 on aggregate, 1-1 on the night against Coventry. So that's better news for me anyway, personally, because I was living up in Newcastle. If Sunderland get in the Premier League, then I'll have a bit more of a local away game to go to as well as Newcastle.
To be fair, mate, Sheffield's not that far either.
Sheffield's not too bad either. So yeah, another northern club.
Bournemouth, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Brighton, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to finish off, we're going to get some questions in, but please, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're getting close to 300 in the chat, which is just fantastic. And massive thanks for Justin for being on tonight. It's been a great conversation. So please do like, subscribe, and keep commenting on what we're chatting about. You mentioned you were down at the club today, Justin, and Villa 946 asked the question, what do you all think of the new Villa lion statue? I don't know if you managed to see it. I've seen the pictures of it, but did you see it live in the flesh?
I did. I stood right next to it and took a little picture
Fantastic.
of myself with it. Yeah, it's lovely. It's really nice. You know, when you look at, you know, the now three sides of the ground have got very important statues now. You got obviously the gaslit lamp beyond the north, the Holt end. You got the McGregor statue by the Trinity. Now you've got the lion statue in the north stand, and it's lovely. It's a lovely addition. I went last week and saw the memorial wall as well, which is running down the side of Trinity Road, walking down towards the club shop. That's really nice. You know, they've really upped, you know, when you've got the old pavers where it's all fading away, these are really, really nice metal laminated plaques, and they're beautiful. Honestly, I'm definitely going to get one myself. And this lion is going to be fantastic. Like I said, maybe at the moment it looks a little bit out of place. It's lovely and shiny and new and it's beautiful. But look again in the future when the north stand's done, the thing is done, that might be slightly repositioned into a more central area maybe, and it become a focal point. But yeah, I mean, the lion it's Aston Villa, isn't it? You know, it's one of the most iconic parts of our club. It's been on our badges throughout all 733 incarnations of our badges. It's always been there. So that's such an important part. It's on my arm. It's, you know, everybody has tattoos as the lion. So it's a lovely, lovely thing. And I'm so pleased the clubs have had it done. And to send another great celebration of the 150th anniversary, which they've done so well.
Yeah, brilliant. It looks great. It looks great. Stephen asked a question for you. I'll give this one to you, Kev. Would you rather have a Spurs United season and win a cup and qualify for the Champions League, or take the Conference League through, I guess, league position?
I mean, if you had a choice of winning a trophy, I think you win a trophy. But the way that their seasons have gone, I mean, that's literally like, you know, getting beaten up and then, you know, having a bloody nose and then finding the 50 quid, you know, on the way home. Like, you know, it's a real random one, isn't it? It's, you know, for either of those two teams, and we were talking before we started the pod, weren't we? How, like, you know, they're going to be the worst, probably two teams outside of the relegated teams this season. And let's be clear, the relegated teams are a chasm away from everybody else. So for them to be the two, basically they're the worst two teams in the league, because the other three teams that went down are championship teams. So it's just a total anomaly that they're going to get into the into the Champions League. If you're looking at a Newcastle, you know, winning a trophy and maybe then ended up finishing sixth, that'd be an argument around if we'd have finished Champions League positions and not won a trophy. But I think I'd rather have the season we've had. You know, we've gone toe to toe with some of the best in Europe, and we've been a hair's breadth away from getting to the semi-final of the Champions League. You know, and I would have fancied us in a two-leg tie against Arsenal. You know, I mean, the one thing I would say is I don't think any other team, if anyone can correct me otherwise, has been doing what it used to be the other big teams that used to do this. We still had interest in 3 competitions in April. You know, I don't think anybody else had that other than Aston Villa this season in terms of competing on 3 fronts. And that is memories, that's experiences, that's famous nights. So yeah, they might get a lucky outcome at the end of it, but I don't think it changes much. So even if they get the Champions League, I don't think it's going to revolutionise what they do, because I think both of those clubs have got a lot of toxicity going through them for a number of reasons. And I think we've surpassed both of them now. So if they get the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't qualify. You know, as in that, you know, they didn't get out of the you know, the group stage.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think you can't. I know it might be a slight disappointment or whatever at the end of the season, but to go through what we've been through this season and have the fantastic nights and the fantastic wins in the Premier League this season, compare it to Tottenham and Man United, who are clinging and clambering for some sort of credit to get through this season. I don't think I could cope with that. Like losing 20 games this season, or 17 games that Man United have lost. No,
20 for Spurs,
yeah.
17 for Man United.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, if you remember, like in previous years, it was always 40 points would probably see you safe. And in some seasons, like it was like, I think 42 one year West Ham went down with. Both with 2 games left, both Spurs and Man United have got less than 40 points. And there's a good chance they might not get above 40 points with Spurs keep making 9 changes like they did, you know, for the last game because of the Europa League final. to not get even 40 points is absolutely embarrassing. But hey, you know what? If they get a trophy, I can't see Spurs winning it. I just don't think.
But it's absolutely hilarious, Kev.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is.
And we hope that it's going to be at least 21 defeats for Tottenham and 18 defeats for Manchester United, don't we? So
we do. Have you seen that thing going around as well for this Europa League final at El Clownico?
Yeah. There's some sort of joke about Spurs. The police in Spain are investigating them because they're for taking flares into the ground or something, because it's something about the last time they were there was in the 70s or something like that.
Very good. Very good. I can't see Spurs winning it. I think at least Man United, I mean, crazy thing about how bad they've been in recent years. They've been getting to finals, they've been winning trophies. So but strange things have happened.
Yes. I guess a nice question from Ronan. I don't know if you've got the inside scoop, Justin, but are we about to see an Aston Villa star Netflix series? Are the rumours true? Premiere June the 25th.
I would be very surprised. I think you're talking a month away from launching a Netflix series. I think somebody somewhere would have had an inkling about that. You know, cameras following people around, dressing rooms, changing rooms. Unless they've kept it very, very quiet, I can't see that one there.
No. There was kind of talk about it, but like you say, we would have had teasers, we'd have had all sorts, wouldn't we?
Something would have dropped by now.
Yeah. A couple of transfer ones, Kev. Adamski says, can you see De Bruyne coming to Villa, considering our Belgian players already here? And Mr. Green's asked, what happened to the Nipan deal? I guess that one's probably still in the offing, isn't it? I guess the young lad's probably, keeping his options open, or they might have agreed and he's got to wait a certain amount of time to announce it. I know there's various things that happen, but yeah, the De Bruyne, could you see that happening?
I don't know. I mean, nothing would surprise me with Villa. Yeah, if you look at the Coutinho deal, the Asensio deal, the Rashford did in recent years, but I can't really see it happening. I can see him going to a Saudi, maybe to a European league somewhere. He's done what he's done with Man City. Is he going to want to go and have a season at Aston Villa? I just can't see it. He's not like Rashford's got a point to prove, hasn't he? De Bruyne's done it all. He's won it all, hasn't he, with Man City? So I can imagine him getting a payday, getting a bit of sun on his fair skin, and enjoying himself maybe. But then with the way the club's been in recent years, stranger things have happened. The Nipan deal, very highly rated, looks an absolute baller on what I've seen on YouTube. But I think we'll see what happens with that one. I mean, maybe he's waiting to see where Villa finish.
Yeah. Final question, I think, for tonight. Howard says, great conversation, lads. What do you think next season targets are? I guess depending on what European competition we're in. Justin, what do you think?
Win the League Cup, win the FA Cup, win whatever European competition we're in, and win the league.
There we go.
Target at the start of every season.
Precisely. Yeah. As you say, Kev, someone's got to win it.
Just continue the upward curve. Definitely. We're on a fantastic run. So long may it continue.
Yes. I want us to be in with a shout. I'm not saying we're going to win the league. I think we can, but I want us to be up there amongst the conversation going into January, February time to be 3-6 points off if we're not there. Like we were obviously the season before when we could have gone top at Christmas. To be in the conversation with these teams, then I think it would be amazing. And come on, it's time we win a trophy. This team's got to win a trophy, hasn't it? So whether that's the Europa, the Carabao, the FA Cup, I'd love it to be the FA Cup. To be honest, I'd love it to be that. But absolutely cement what we're doing. Get back in Europe. It'd be 4 times there, wouldn't it? So
yeah, exactly. I think that does us, boys. Michael with a comment. Can I congratulate the Villa podcast family for showing class? Well, yes, we love the fans forums. We love getting other podcasts and other guests on just to chat all things Aston Villa. And it's been a fantastic show tonight, Justin.
Rich, can I just say something about Michael?
Yes, right. Of course you can.
Michael is an absolutely amazing man. I went, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, and did an evening with Chad, who, Chad, who does the podcast.
Yeah.
Michael and Chad put it on, and it was a brilliant night. I enjoyed it wholeheartedly. And what Michael does, his attitude, his love of the club, he's just a top guy. So I wanted just to pay credit to him because he's a top guy. And Chad, if Chad's watching, I don't know if he's watching, but yeah, good guys.
Yeah, legend is Michael.
Well said.
I've seen him at games over the years as well. He's a top man, and he's does so much work for charities and everything, and put so much time and effort in. And he's always so level-headed about the Villa as well. He's marathon.
Annoyingly, he's a really nice guy as well.
Yeah. I know. He just got everything. Just such a nice guy. Just so much work for charities and helps people out. Yeah, there's nothing to not like him about. Yeah.
And he's a really good-looking fella as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, Justin, it's been amazing having you on the channel, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. What have you got coming up on your channel and your launch of? Well, it's been out for a little while now, Justin Talks Villa, but it's great stuff, mate. What have you got coming up?
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's something I've sort of had in my head for a long time, but I think it's just getting the confidence to do it. We've done the Up the Villa stuff for so long. It's like a comfy pair of slippers, the Up the Villa stuff. We just log in and have a chat and then log out. But doing this on my own has taken a bit of a leap of faith on my behalf. But I'm enjoying every minute of it. I'm just editing an episode I've got with Tom Shepherd, the chef. I don't know if you know him. He's got a place in Lichfield. It's a Michelin star, but he also is in charge of the corporate catering at Wembley and at Villa Park. So that was a really, really interesting conversation. Him giving his insight into what it's like in the corporate side of things, especially after all the refurbishments in that side of the things. And then I've got a few more things coming up, and what else? Oh, doing a live event, would you believe?
Brilliant.
It's an evening with Gary Thompson with the Rugby Aston Villa Supporters Club. So that should be very good.
Fantastic, Paul. Fantastic stuff, mate. And if anyone watching hasn't yet, please do subscribe to Justin's channel, Justin Talks Villa.
Very kind, thank you.
And on your way out, please do smash the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, we're on the road to 6,000 subscribers. We'll be back later this week with preview for Tottenham, potentially some transfer talk, and I've also got a special Bodymore bulletin with a journalist, friend of the channel. I'll leave it at that tomorrow, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. But thank you everyone for watching. Like I said, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.